And we see chaos around the world, I think in part because of the existence of Bitcoin. And we see people responding and providing solutions to chaos because of Bitcoin. The interest on the debt in the US, for example, is well over $1 trillion and growing quite rapidly. The shock of money printing and that the fact that you can just come up with trillions of it on the spur of the moment. And places that are clinging to the fiat money world, like the United States. Same thing around the world. They're all in essentially free fall. It's like money is completely fictitious. Bitcoin allows them to have unconfiscatable, uncensorable money. They're going to leapfrog 300 years of failed fiat money banking until the fiat money is all gone. They're unwilling to let go of the fiat money nightmare. They're clinging to it.
After a week of significant crypto market downturn and Bitcoin price crash fears continuing, billionaires are sounding the alarm that we could witness something much worse in the weeks to come. But Max Keiser issues a warning to all Bitcoin and crypto holders, and the sell-off we're seeing is only the beginning. The Bitcoin tsunami that's coming will change crypto forever, and Keiser discusses the inevitable collapse of the fiat money system as we know it, and says there's a plan to take over Bitcoin and crypto. With BlackRock being one of the biggest players to get into the space, this will be the least of our concerns, as entire countries are now coming for Bitcoin. With the current price sitting just below $86,000, still down over 20% in the past month. In this latest interview, Keiser discusses why it's more important than ever that nation-states adopt Bitcoin and incorporate into the global economy before the inevitable collapse of the current monetary system as we know it. Everyone's focused on tariffs, inflation, and the so-called weak dollar, but Max Keiser is seeing something completely different, and it might be the most underreported economic shift of 2025. Behind the scenes, the US just pulled off what could be the biggest corporate tax cut in modern history without even changing the official rate. Through new depreciation rules, companies can now write off almost everything. That drops the effective corporate tax rate to somewhere around 10 to 12%. That means the US just became the lowest taxed major economy on Earth. Let's get right into the latest interview with Max Keiser, as he gives us his prediction for Bitcoin in the coming months, and why a massive surge in capital is about to pour into the space. Drop your comments down below and subscribe if you enjoy the content we do here.
When we cover economics and finance, we try to look past the jargon and look past the hype. And what are these words actually saying? And what does it mean to my money and the purchasing power of my money? Because ultimately, that's the most important piece of the economy that anyone should be concerned about. So Bitcoin is the invasive species of money, where it eats fiat money, right? That's the byproduct of this invasive species. It leaves behind a vector pointing toward truth and pointing toward a place that we're all just kind of figuring out now. The thing about Bitcoin, it is a bit mysterious. When you take the species, the human species, and you give it something it hasn't never really experienced, perfect money, and it has an interesting effect. And we see chaos around the world, I think in part because of the existence of Bitcoin. And we see people responding and providing solutions to chaos because there is Bitcoin to give you hope. And places that are clinging to the fiat money world, like the United States, they talk about a Bitcoin strategic reserve, but somehow they keep doing things like buying Argentinian pesos. And that's not helping them. They want more pain. The Bitcoin will give them more pain until the fiat money is all gone. You've got a 300-year experiment with fiat money and central banks, and so therefore faith in sovereign paper or sovereign bonds going down. People are dumping it, and they are buying, obviously they're buying a lot of gold. So gold has doubled in the last, year, and gold is the 5,000-year-old traditional safe haven. And of course, they have been buying Bitcoin. The people who preached Bitcoin now for 15 years, a lot of them are libertarian and hard money and gold bugs have been talking about Bitcoin in those terms for very many years. And that's part of the reason why it's so high, is because it's already attracted a lot of capital inflows into Bitcoin from people looking for a safe haven and a store of value. But now that they've got a name for it on CNBC, it's called the debasement trade. And so this is capturing the attention of that $400 trillion worth of investable assets around the world that are always in a state of movement, in flux, looking for a home to get greater return on investment. And so The source of funds that's now pouring into Bitcoin and gold would be real estate, right? Real estate's being dumped in favor of Bitcoin and gold. The bond market's being dumped in favor of Bitcoin and gold. That right there is over $200 trillion of total addressable market, with Bitcoin, which got a market cap of just over 2 trillion, right? So you can see it 10xing from here pretty easily just to get into the zip code of some of these other assets. The respect that Wall Street and other banking centers around the world are paying Bitcoin as an investment class. I know that the fiduciary responsibility for money managers and fund managers around the world is to gain exposure to asset classes commensurate with having a risk-adjusted portfolio, diversified into various classes of assets. So if Bitcoin got to the point of being considered to be a legitimate asset class, a new asset class, which you have not seen in hundreds of years, then I knew that there would be a minimum of 1% allocation of that global pie of hundreds of trillions of dollars of investable assets into Bitcoin, which would immediately means it's got to go to a minimum of $100,000 per coin, because it's a fixed supply of 21 million coins. It's about understanding, as a former stockbroker, kind of how money works. And also to Stacy's point about the shock of money printing, and that the fact that you can just come up with trillions of it on the spur of the moment. When I was working on Wall Street, this is one of the things that struck me, was that as a stockbroker, anytime you make a big mistake and you lose $500 million, it's very easy at the brokerage firm to just create $500 million by moving thing, put this here, put that there, sell these over here, take this over here. It's like money is completely fictitious. The brokers know this. And part of the charm of the Keiser report was that we spoke about markets from that perspective. Like, don't believe the hype. Don't believe the Wall Street Journal, the Financial Times. It's all nonsense. It's just all basically a video game played by privileged guys in Wall Street and the Bloomberg terminals who can print money at will. It's all circular. It's all ecosystem of a terrarium of money. It's all self-feeding itself. And, if you have Bitcoin as a safe haven, but you live in a country that's mired in all kinds of problems, why not move to a country that reflects the safe haven of Bitcoin? It's interesting because right now, geopolitically and macroeconomically, people are talking about the debasement trade, and they're talking about safe havens. And so Bitcoin is a safe haven. It's a risk-off asset. And so is El Salvador. El Salvador is a safe haven country. It's a risk-off country. That's why these two are magically coexisting so beautifully and reinforcing the strengths of each.
Embracing an unyielding enthusiasm for the crypto realm, Keiser confidently predicts that the next collapse is looming on the horizon, as BlackRock and many other crypto giants are bracing for. Keiser reassures that a long-expected surge awaits, as Bitcoin's price will still rise exponentially in the second half of 2025.
Max and I have always said that bull markets are actually harder to survive with your integrity intact than a bear market, right? Bear market is like, there's less cheating in a bear market. Everybody starts scamming in a bull market. And you see that with nation states, because all these coins, the several million coins are going up. You could see how confused they are. And they're like, yeah, we're going to allow all these coins. And I think once the next crash happens, of all those altcoins, I think the only country with its shorts on, right?
Yeah, or as Warren Buffett says, when the tide goes out, you see who's not wearing any bathing suit.
Everybody talks about digital assets and crypto and all of that stuff, and crypto innovation and blockchains and stuff like that. We built during the bear market, during all the collapses of Terra Luna and Celsius and FTX. We built with the highest integrity and the highest standards. Kubo Plus, our Bitcoin and Lightning Devs program, that was the beginning of our building something real and legitimate. That, I believed that how we had to operate the Bitcoin office and build Bitcoin country is, it was not marketing. It was not just a LARP. We were putting with this. In order to win, we had to put in the proof of work. That is the Bitcoin way. No, very few other countries are actually doing that. They're not actually putting in the proof of work. They're just putting in a LARP. They're doing a marketing thing, and they're acquiring some Bitcoin. Everybody, yes, should do that. Bitcoiners who have survived many cycles is their incentive structure. They've adopted the paper Bitcoin model. And you can see that then you start to be part of the fiat system, because you need more money printing to pump stocks, to get investors into stocks. They're not buying, if they're buying your stock, it doesn't matter what the MNAV is, they don't own any Bitcoin. And therefore, if it's only about the price going up, or the stock price going up, or the MNAV going up, then it's not about a mindset shift. It's just one number that is easily manipulated. And Max and I have always said is, one thing about holding Bitcoin in your own custody, self-custodying it, is it doesn't matter if you own 1 Satoshi, or 1 Bitcoin, 1 million Bitcoin, or well, a couple 100,000 Bitcoin. You're all Bitcoiners, right? We're all equal. And that is the mindset of a Bitcoiner. And right now, I think it'll pass, but right now there's a lot of confusion for people. It happens every cycle. So it's not something to be, freaking out about, but every cycle there's a new way to confuse newbies in the space of like what actually is Bitcoin. A lot of them will find out when their stock prices, like a lot of the stock prices of the Bitcoin treasury companies are already down 95% worse than some of those coins yesterday. And so I think that is not about mindset. It's not about an age of discovery. It's not about human potential. It's not about human action. It's not about these extraordinary things. It's not about life, liberty, property, right? About your stock price that is, could be, you own nothing. You own nothing. You'll own my stock. You have my stock and you'll own nothing and you'll be happy. That's essentially what they're saying, because what you're seeing in the rest of the world is a debasement of those sort of foundational ideas of enlightenment or Renaissance thinking is like, and I think we've been in a fiat dark ages over the past 50 years. It'll look darker from the future, but like while you're in it and you were coming from such a great time on the gold standard and the building of these great societies and economies around the world, and then they've slowly degraded over time. But I think darkness there's always light somewhere, and the lightness is the opportunity. And as soon as you turn on the light, it attracts the best and brightest who are seeking a better place to build something amazing.
The Bank of Japan, historically central to global currency dynamics, is on the brink of default, which could precipitate a global economic downturn. Max foresees a looming economic catastrophe driven by collapsing fiat money systems, rampant inflation, and bank failures. He suggests that a transition to a Bitcoin standard might be on the horizon as the world grapples with the impending crisis. He asserts that the promises made by the Federal Reserve and central banks have been hollow, leading to excessive money printing and a proliferation of poor investments. And with the aftermath of the recent inflation surge, Keiser says this will not lead to a return to the status quo. He argues that the economy has spun out of control, with the US facing a mounting debt crisis. Keiser presents two bleak possibilities: hyperinflation or a deflationary depression. In either scenario, the overall quality of life deteriorates. He notes the absence of viable solutions, indicating an even greater severity of the crisis. Interestingly, he points out how political figures are discussing Bitcoin as part of a potential solution, marking a shift towards a Bitcoin-centric financial framework. What do you think about the latest interview with Max Keiser? And what are your thoughts on his prediction for Bitcoin? Drop your comments down below and subscribe if you enjoy the content we do here.